I feel like black and white film doesn't get enough love. We're all so focused on colour stocks, but stripping it back to just tones and light can really help you see things differently. So today I'm heading to London to put a 35mm roll of black and white film to the test and show you why you should be shooting more of it. Right, we're in London and today I've come straight to the Barbican Centre. I came here before and I shot some Portrait 160 and the results were really nice. But I remember thinking at the time this would be a really good place to shoot some black and white. So here I am. Camera is loaded with some Tri-X, which is probably my favourite stock of film for black and white, apart from maybe Delta 400. But I didn't have any Delta 400 in the fridge, so I've gone with Tri-X, because essentially I didn't have a choice. And we're going to go with the Canonet QL19, which I think is probably one of the best value rangefinders on the market. I picked this up for £45, which is unbelievable value for money. I've used it once in Brighton, also using Portrait 160, and got some really nice results. But today we are in London. We use shooting black and white, not colour, and we're going to give it a good go, give you some good reasons as to why you should shoot more black and white. First up is black and white's wide exposure latitude. Yes, colour negative film also has a wide exposure latitude, but black and white film has even more. A wider latitude will allow you to over or underexpose your images, meaning that you're more likely to get the exposure right, or close enough that you can then tweak it in post. That also means that it's easier to push and pull the film, which essentially means purposely shooting it over or underexposed. So you can have a little bit more control over how you want to shoot. It's also brilliant in a varied type of weather conditions. For example, if it's black and white and grey, then you can still shoot black and white and get some really nice results. Which brings me nicely on to point number 2. Often as film shooters, we're chasing light, which sometimes just simply isn't there. But with black and white, we don't have to worry about getting those colour pops that you get with colour negative film in good light. So we can focus on our subjects and our scenes without having to worry about whether it's going to look really flat. So for me, when the weather simply isn't there, it's my go-to is black and white, and it allows me to think differently, which we'll come on to later. And today is a perfect example of the versatility of black and white. It is very grey, it's very cloudy, and it's very boring to shoot colour because you don't get that natural colour pop that we were talking about. So today, black and white, in a place like this where you get natural light and shadow, is perfect. You'll often hear photographers talking about chasing timeless looking photos. And if that's something that you do like, I mean, we all kind of have that vibe about us, that's why we shoot film, right? But if you do like that, then black and white is a seriously good option. There's a certain mood that black and white film gives you that colour can't. And in my opinion, that helps you get that timeless look. And I think you can agree, some of these photos I've taken today at Barbican have been sort of have that timeless look about them. And if you strip out the colour, quite often that does happen, and it's an aesthetic that I really like. I'm now going to move on from Barbican. I'm going to head to central London. I haven't decided if I'm going to walk there or jump on the tube. I'll probably walk there and maybe try and get some shots on the way. But the next point is a really big one because it's cost. Yes, film is very expensive, painfully so, and it doesn't really look like it's showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. But a high-end film stock like Tri-X or Delta 400, which I've been shooting and I mentioned earlier, they can be half the price of your high-end color negative films like Portrait 400 or 800, for example. There are also options that are even cheaper. HP5, which is a really nice stock, I'll flash up some images now, is a really good option. It's got a really great exposure latitude, so it can be pushed and pulled with great results, and it's much more cost effective. And even cheaper still is the Canonet range, which is available in 100, 200 and 400. So these are options that can get you into film photography at a super reasonable price. You can pick up rolls of Canonet for sometimes under £5 a roll, which is in this day and age pretty bloody good. Shooting black and white film is totally different to shooting color negative. Yes, you still have a camera, you still have a roll of film, but what you're looking for on the street is totally different. When I'm shooting color negative film, I'm really looking out for, obviously, good stories, good characters, but I'm looking also at what colours work well together. So monochromatic, analogous, primary colours, for example. But when you're shooting black and white film, your focus is totally different. For me, for example, I am looking just for stories or just for good light or nice textures. Whereas when you're throwing in colour, it completely changes your sort of what you're looking for. So it's a really nice way to focus on different things. And it's something that I would highly recommend to anybody that shoots colour, whether it's film or digital. One of the reasons why I came to Barbican Centre is because there's a place called the Barbican Kitchen, I think it's called that. And outside there tends to be a really good place to shot. Last time I was here, got some wicked shots, but this time there's a graduation. So it's a little bit carnage, not really my thing, really super busy, so, but busy in a bad way. So what I've done is I've kind of skirted around that, and you probably will see maybe 1 or 2 shots from there, but yeah, I've kind of shifted out of there pretty quickly. It's a little bit annoying because I was looking forward to showing you it because it's a really cool place to shoot. People eating there like lunch or dinner or whatever, having a snack, and people kind of enjoying outside the front where there's some nice water and whatnot. But it is what it is. I'm gonna go shoot elsewhere and then we'll see what we can get. Right, so we've changed Barbican for Soho, which is one of my favourite areas to shoot. In Soho, you have lots of characters, lots of good light, and it's pretty close to Leicester Square, it's pretty close to Piccadilly. It's also close to Jeremiah Street, which is where you have slightly different characters, a bit more posh, especially during the week. You can get some good like working characters, so somewhere I would definitely recommend. I haven't got too many shots left on this roll of film, so I'm going to finish off. Before we do that, we'll go to point number 6. So something I touched on in the last point was how shooting black and white is a totally different sport to shooting colour negative film. But I actually wanted to go into a little bit more detail. Here are some things that you could look out for when shooting black and white that would be totally different to when you're shooting colour negative film. Firstly, black and white film is often grainier. And something that I would highly recommend is sort of embracing that grain. It does help give that timeless look that we talked about earlier, but it also gives you that film aesthetic that we all love. I know we talked about how it's a great option in dull weather, but when the light is really shining and you get that harsh shadow to light, it can make for a really interesting photo. So it's definitely something that I would recommend looking out for when you're shooting black and white film. Backlighting can work really well with black and white film because you can create that sort of mystery of silhouettes or really interesting scenes where perhaps you can't see the detail in the shadow, but you do get enough of the story in there. So it gives that sort of, how would I say it? Kind of a more mysterious vibe than, say, you might get with colour negative film. And I guess lastly on this one, for me, colour can sometimes be distracting. And in some places, colours can be quite ugly and actually take away from the photo. So it allows you to essentially ignore colour and focus solely on subject and composition, which is a really nice, actually refreshing way to shoot. Right, that is it. I am done. Shot the end of the roll in Soho, Chinatown sort of area. Did actually forget to mention that Chinatown is also near Soho, another great place to shoot with loads of interesting characters. Obviously, I don't know how the shots from today came out. Hopefully they came out all right. I can't guarantee that because obviously it's film and I don't feel like they were particularly good, but I've been dropping in loads of other images throughout to kind of showcase what black and white imagery you can get in certain situations. But it is now raining a little bit, so it is time for me to head home. But before I wrap up, you've got one more point left. So point number 7. Finally, point number 7, and certainly last but not least, is this is a fantastic way for a beginner to get into film photography. As we discussed a moment ago, colour negative film is much more expensive than black and white. Black and white can be picked up at a much more cost-effective price, and the more rolls of film you can shoot, the better you are going to become at photography, and you're going to hone your skills just through repetitions, and that can only be a good thing. But not only does it allow you to learn through repetitions, it allows you to focus on the things away from colour. It cuts out the noise of colour, which can sometimes be distracting. It allows you to focus on things like contrast, tonalities, the stories, or the scene in front of you without having to worry about anything else. And finally, as a beginner, you will fuck things up. There's an absolute guarantee, because you're gonna load the film wrong. You're gonna accidentally not change your ISO on your camera. You're gonna over or underexpose things. And black and white film is so forgiving. It's much flatter than color negative film, and it allows you to make mistakes but still get good images at the end. Before I sign off, I just want to go through why Tri-X and Delta 400 are my favorite film stocks to shoot. They're both 400 speed ISO, which for street photography is great. It allows me to shoot in a varied conditions while still maintaining a variety of wider or narrower aperture depending on how I want to shoot the scene. It also gives you a little bit more contrast than, say, a Canonet or HP5 would give you. HP5 is, however, a very, very good option. You do get a little bit more grain than you would with the slightly better quality film stocks, but you can also then push the film to 800 ISO, but that would also introduce more grain whilst giving you that more contrast. So it's something to bear in mind. There's a bit of a trade-off. HP5 is also cheaper, but a cheaper option again is Canonet 1, 2, or 400, which are much cheaper than a Tri-X or Delta 400. For example, you can pick them up for £5 or £6, which is brilliant. As we discussed before, it's a fantastic way to get into film photography and practice, make mistakes, and get better. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you found that interesting. Do please let me know which of these film stocks you preferred, or which of these points were the most useful to you. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button. It does help and I'd be very grateful. And also you could subscribe because there'll be tons more videos coming out just like this. Until the next one, peace.